This is the way the world works.
God is
Here,
using him
be,
right now.
okay, be quiet for a second. Don't swear for a
Sorry.
second.
I love you, Bo. Okay.
No, you gotta get over.
Hey, stop, sorry. Come down, please.
God runs the world. Then under that, you got 1,000-year-old families, Medici. Under that, you have the Vatican, the Pope. Under that, you have the financial groups that control all your shit. BlackRock, Vanguard. After that, you have Putin. You have Trump. You have all this shit. And after that, you got what all this shit is. Entertainment. Hollywood. Take that, run that back, run into schools. I'm going to give y'all one last thing.
The pyramid of power, as they call it. Of course, their only power is the power they sap off us, right? As they're all vampires. How you going, guys? Welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Autodidactic. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And today we're going to have a bit of a look at who are those who wish to control us.
What they do is they change their name. Their original name used to be Bauer. So what they do is they change their name so that they can blend in with the system. And the Canaanites, who had the curse for 2,000 years, they would also change their names for 2,000 years. And we know who those people are. Well, let me give you a quote by the Rothschild. If I own the money system, I don't care who writes the laws. So every single money, across the world, owned by the Rothschilds. All the banks, Rothschild. Every single Rothschild. Medical system, agricultural system, educational system, energy system, Rothschild. So how do the Rothschilds influence the world? Well, they own everything. And that's when you get into the book Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullen. And what the Rothschilds did was after they owned a lot of the things in Europe, they actually moved to America by paying the Rockefellers so that the Rockefellers could then control America. So when you date it back, you're dating it back to the Rothschilds. Now, if you want to date it back even farther, you go to the Oppenheimer. If you want to date it back even farther after the Oppenheimer, you go to the Canaanites. The Canaanites. If you want to look up that word, you can look up the Canaanites. Or you can look up the Charzars, because there's this interesting world called Khazaria, but it's actually Chazaria. So Charizard.
Charizard sounds like was that a Pokemon? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. There's a lot in there, right? The Canaanites from Canaan, and they worshipped Baal. Cana Baal. Right? What does that mean? I mean, we know what these people do at all their events, with their spirit cooking and all that kind of weird stuff and all the red liquid sacrifices, can I say that? And this is the story, right? It's been the same people all the time. The infected ones, right? The possessed ones, the ones who follow the Lord.
I believe it was ninth century that they took on this designation of Jews. The word Jew didn't exist before that. It came from the word Judean. Okay, so the Judeans, one tribe of the 12 or 13 tribes of Israel. So they took on this name Jew because it sounds a bit like Judean, and they call themselves Semites because it sounds a bit like Shemite, a descendant of Shem. They call themselves Israelis because it sounds a bit like Israelites. Right? So they're impersonating the Israelites because I think in one, and I can't remember where it is in the Old Testament, but it says, those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. So now these Israelis are receiving billions and billions of dollars and pounds and whatever from everyone because they, this idea that they'll be blessed because they're blessing these Israelis.
Spell magic, spelling, it's all spells, right? We know they use spells everywhere. That's why it's the first thing they teach us at school, right? Is spelling. Well, that's after they tell you to leave your imaginary friend at the door, right? And tell you that nothing that you can't prove physically is real. All part of the game. But the Khazarians, the name changes, the name stealers. Khazaria was a country, and basically what they did is, though it was kind of a blocked off country, and when people traveled through there, when rich people traveled through there, they would unalive them and steal their name, right? And then they would go out in the world and get all these loans and things on that name, and then just never repay the loans, right? Just take it all back to their country and steal it. and just leave the debt with the poor person that they'd unalived, the Khazarians.
Contrary to popular belief, the God of the Bible became God, rather than he always was God. For 1 millennia, in 2000 BC, the Canaanite god El was worshipped long before the god Yahweh. If you went back in time to 2000 BC and asked an ancient Canaanite who the god of the world was, he would say El was the god who created the world. El was the chief deity of the Canaanite pantheon. El was pictured as an old man with a gray beard who was very distant. El had a son named Baal. Baal was a warrior and a god of the storm. In total, El had 3 sons, Baal, Yam, and Mot. Now here's the thing, El also had a 4th son. It was Yahweh. This can be seen in the earliest source text of the Torah, Deuteronomy 32, verse 8, 9. When the Most High, Elyon, gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. But Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the allotment of his inheritance. In this text, the god El is giving inheritances to his sons, and he is giving Yahweh a portion of his inheritance. The text even admits that Jacob is his allotment and his inheritance. Most people who read Deuteronomy 32, 8, will argue that El is simply another name for Yahweh, and that Yahweh is both giving the inheritances out to his sons, but he allotted Israel to himself as his own inheritance. But that is not how inheritance works. Vocabulary.com defines inheritance as this: any money or property you receive after the death of a friend or relative is an inheritance. Your grandmother might have left you a small inheritance, but she left the bulk of her estate to her Chihuahua killer. In some ancient Near Eastern mythologies and religious texts, the concept of inheritance among gods does not necessarily imply the imminent death of the deity who is distributing the inheritance. Instead, it often signifies the passing down of authority, power, or responsibilities from one deity to another. Long story short, in the earliest source text of the Bible, Yahweh receives an allotment from his father, El. Other distinctions from Yahweh and El exist in the Genesis account. In Genesis 1, Elohim hovers above the waters of creation. In Genesis 3, Adam and Eve hear Yahweh walk in the garden, and Adam admits he heard the sound of Yahweh walking in the garden. In Genesis 2, Yahweh has a physical body, while Elohim doesn't. From the data, Yahweh and El were 2 distinct deities. Some people thought Yahweh was the Most High, while others thought El was the Most High, and Yahweh was his son. The earliest view, from the evidence, is that Yahweh was a son of El. From this, a group of Canaanites pushed back, saying that Yahweh was not a son of El Elyon, but he was the Most High himself. Yahweh then turned from being physical to being distant, and from being distant he then became invisible. From walking in the garden with Adam and Eve to nobody has ever seen God.
El, you may have heard me call these people who wish to rule us the El-ites, right? The people of El. And that's why, because this is who they worship. This is their God. But as you heard there's different gods, right? There's levels. So we're clearly not talking about the creator, right? The one who created the energy that created this world and everything in it. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about Yahweh and El, and also Baal, right? Baal, Canna, Baal. These are all different gods. So what are they? We hear that they say sometimes they have no body and sometimes they do. To me, it seems like this whole story seems like there's some kind of consciousness has come in from another place. What is that? I don't know. Another realm, another dimension. Who knows, right? But it's got in here, and it has basically proclaimed itself God to some people and taken over them. They've started worshipping this God, which has opened them up, and he's basically possessed them, or it, whatever it is, has possessed them. And we see this today, right? And we know they still worship all these archaic gods and the practices they did, like the first, sacrifices with, people. Gotta be careful what I say, because guess who's monitoring us? That came from the Canaanites, and that goes back to the 13 tribes, 13 families. There's a lot in there, but yeah, that's why I call them the El-ites.
4-letter name of a chief Canaanite god means Lord. David, when it's Baal, yes.
There you have it. They tell us the Lord of the Bible is Baal, B-A-A-L, right? Baal, from Canaanite, the Canaanite god. Again, Baal. So the Lord, the Lord is not the creation God. It goes, if you read the Bible, it's on like the second page. It goes from God to the Lord God and then to Lord, right? There's two creation stories as well in the Bible. So what are we looking at here? I mean, clearly though, they tell us that their Lord, their God, is Baal or El or Yahweh. Take your pick, right? They all are, but read about them. They're not nice people. And in the Bible again, it says, I am a jealous God. Okay, this is not a loving God. This is not a creation God. This is a jealous entity that wants worship, right? Through, all these celebrities, right? Celebrated entities, celebrities, and all they want worship, right? All the music, all this stuff, the news, that they want to be worshipped here as gods on earth.
In the Bible, there are many things that are misunderstood and mistranslated into English that comes from what we call Hebrew. First of all, we need to understand that that which we refer to as Hebrew is in point of fact not Hebrew, but Canaanite, Phoenician Canaanite. The bloodline is from the ancient Middle East called the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians, their area, that area in which Phoenicia existed, was called Cana, the land of Cana. So today we refer to the Canaanite, Phoenician Canaanite language as Hebrew. All you have to do is go to reference books and look up ancient Hebrew, and it will tell you ancient Hebrew is actually Phoenician Canaanite. And it develops and mutates and comes down through history until today we call it Hebrew. But Hebrew is actually a Phoenician language. And many of the concepts and ideas which are expressed in the Old Testament are not original to the Old Testament. It goes back to even further back into ancient history, so that many of the concepts and belief systems in Judaism and Christianity are very, very ancient. And I believe that the Bible is one of the most important books on the earth, because it's really telling you some really interesting things, but if you don't understand how to read the symbols, it's never going to dawn on you how this stuff works. I think the New Testament is probably the most important story in the whole world, but not as history, but as a metaphor, as an encoded message. But let me go back to this one subject that I've been very interested in for a long time, and that is, in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 1:1 says, in the King James Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not what it says in the old ancient Hebrew or Phoenician language. That's not what it says in the original language. That's how it was translated from the English, in the King's English. Well, the King's English, the King James Version, was translated by the best translators that the king had at the time. And it was very well done. However, they know more about the language today than what they did then, and so there's a lot of imperfections in the King James Bible that could be misleading unless you understand what the words actually meant in the ancient world. And so when you read in the beginning, this is Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in Hebrew. It says in the beginning of the creation, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim is not the word God. El is a Phoenician Canaanite name or word for deity. El, E-L. We talked a little bit about that last week. Elohim is like adding an S onto an English word. You have C-A-R for car, or C-A-R-S, cars, more than one. So adding an S on the end, to the end of most English words means it's plural, in the plural. Well, that's exactly what Elohim means. El is God, Elohim is plural. So the correct understanding should be read, the Hebrew read, in the beginning the gods created the heavens and the earth, not God. And more interesting than that, this is why, incidentally, in Genesis 1:28, when God is creating Adam and Eve, the first couple, and it says, God said, come, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Who's us and our? Was God talking to himself? Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Later on in Genesis, I think it's 3, the scripture says, God said, here man has become as one of us, knowing good and evil. The point is, who is God talking about? Us. Here is man made in our image after looking like us. Here, now he's like us. Who's us? Who's our? Well, it's Elohim, the gods. So consequently, what we're talking about here is that the gods created us.
The gods created us. Elohim, they, plural. This information's been around for a while, but if you haven't heard that before, come across it, it's telling us that they're not talking about the creator, right, of everything. They're talking about a group of beings who created, it says, right, the land, the heavens and the earth, the land and the water. So is that telling us that this is some kind of simulation that we're in? Like, was it built by people who wish to be worshipped? Let me know in the comments. All right, so we've heard a lot about Canaan. So if you didn't know where Canaan was Canaan, this is the region of Canaan. You can see Judea is in here. I'm on. This is the best picture I could find. It's pretty hard to find these maps for some reason, right? But this area, well, this is the Red Sea here. And if you don't know exactly where this is, this may help. This is called the Great Sea. Back then we've got Egypt, Mesopotamia, which is like Iraq, Iran, those kind of areas, and Canaan here. Are you seeing it yet? This is it again, right, Judea, and they tell us what's there now, right? This place that has been in the news a lot lately and is now, it's basically one of the points that is really making people stand up and say no and question the governments, who's in control, and all this kind of stuff because of the genus side, shall we say, that's going on there. So it's this same region today where they're battling, where the blue people with a J, right? They've got their country in here, and they're spreading out trying to take it all back, right? Their original lands of Canaan, because they are the Canaanites, right, who worshipped Baal. This is what's going on right now, right? It's the same old story.
I found this book at the local antique shop yesterday, and it was written in 1926 by Major General Count Sheriff Spiritovich, The Secret World Government, or the Hidden Hand, Unrevealed in History, 100 Historical Mysteries Explained. This man is explaining that there's a hidden hand, there's a secret government, and they are of the nature of the individuals who are taking over now, the blues with a J, that they are the ones that have been running society because they made a pact with a god. He calls it Satan, but that's his position. But I want to read to you this very specific. I have to be careful about what I really was trying to debate whether to put this on the internet at all, because it could really get me in trouble. But this particular page, I just want you to see this particular part where he says right here, he's talking about proof of the existence of this invisible world government, this hidden hand. He says, the world is governed by very different personages from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes, i.e., not by kings and ministers. Disraeli said not others, but different, which means not the kings, ministers, or other similar men, but absolutely different, possibly even of a different race. Who they are must be known first of all, and only then can we control them and establish peace, but not before. You know how I'm always saying, I'm calling them creatures and creeps? And I'm saying they're not human. I don't know what they are. And this has been my biggest reason around this I ain't unifying, because I don't know what these things are. This apparently has been known. And this has nothing to do with religion. I'm not talking about religion or race. I'm talking about like a species of a soul or something that's on this planet. And that's what he's talking about here. Yeah, he says, Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor, perceived the existence of invisible forces, but could not or did not wish to formulate them, and called them imponderabilia, powers which no one could fathom. I think I saw where you could get this book, like a free PDF, and read it. I didn't try the link, but I did see something come up in my Google search about it, so maybe you can find it and read it. I don't know how available it is to get your hands on, but this is a very valuable book. He says I haven't finished reading yet, but it looks like he's about to tell us why France and Russia went into the War of 1812. He said it was a hidden hand that organized it. He says earlier also that the Civil War was absolutely 100% organized, and nothing about that was organic or true as far as the version of the story that they told. But yes, I recommend, if you could get your hands on this book. If you Google this guy, it's going to say he's racist and anti-semi-truck. But that's because of what he says in this book.
Well, The Secret World Government, hey? That looks like an interesting book. And I sort of agree with everything she said there. Like I just mentioned, right? I don't think that they're us. And that's how I put it when people say, who are they? I just say they're not us, right? Because they're not. Because they love to start wars. And she just mentioned, right, the War of 1812 with Napoleon and the Civil War. And it's every war since, right? And since they've got here, every war since they've got here, basically. And it's all been run for profit and as a sacrifice, right, by certain people. And of course, we've been through a few names that these people have called themselves. And of course, they have a different name today, right? And again, it's the name that you're not really supposed to say, and which that really points out who they are, right? They are not us.
I hope everybody knows by now that the fallen angels run our world. The earth is Satan's domain, and his fallen angels are at the top of the pyramid, if you will. Now, the book of Enoch, chapter 6, tells us that there were 200 of the leaders of these fallen angels. They met on Mount Hermon and they signed an agreement. At the very top of Mount Hermon, there's a building that says UN on the roof, but that's not for this video. Today, we're going to talk about the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation. This is located in Kazakhstan, and it is to represent all of the world's religious faiths. Now, this is a beautifully constructed building, and it's at the point of what looks to be a phoenix. Here's an aerial view. Everything in this city is futuristic. It's all kind of like symbolic looking. Across from it is the presidential palace, and there's more kind of like symbolic stuff. I can't say what that looks like, but it's all very futuristic. What's interesting is at the very top of the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation is a boardroom that has, guess how many seats? 200 seats. Could this be where the leaders of our world meet? Here's the inside of it. It is really odd to me if you really sit back and think about, the fact that Satan does run our world, and it's real that fallen angels run our world. I mean, it is a real thing that demons take physical form and rule our world, and to be looking at, a place where they might all sit and meet, it is kind of creepy. It's beautiful though. Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Now, this building was designed to represent all of the world's religions, but when you read, it says that the top floor was designed a space dedicated to meetings with leaders of a particular religion. So that sounds to me like the top floor was designed for something special. Here's the design of the building. So the sunlight's supposed to come through the top and shine down all the way to the bottom. Here's some drawings of it, but I thought that one was interesting on the right. Kind of reminds me of the ancient Egyptian pyramids that harvested energy. Now this is where it gets so odd, and it really confirms that this city is up to no good. Let's just put it that way. So down the river from these two buildings, you'll see this building, but then right in the middle of the river, there's a portal. And all of the spots around this portal, like there's one like right there. You can't, if you click on it, the portal's gone. So it does not let you view this portal up close. But if you click across the river, you will see it in plain view. And there's just people walking around next to a portal. No big deal. Probably grew up with it. Don't question it. Pretty bizarre, to say the least. Right next to the portal, there was this weather vane, and I thought it kind of looked odd in itself, kind of looked, symbolic of a portal. So when you zoom in, they always say that symbolism will be their downfall because it's pretty consistent. So we see this image here, and wait till I show you what this reminded me of. But it's this big circular thing with these pyramids, and they all have little animals on them. I don't know if these are little animals. I zoomed in and I can't really tell what they are, but just a big weather vane. Everything's circular like that. This is the first thing that it reminded me of. So it's always that circular thing with like blobs on it. And this is a monument to some god. I can't remember what god, some demonic god though. But this is what it reminded me of. And it's just interesting, that it's all around us. And they say symbolism will be their downfall because they like their symbolism. So, again, another red flag.
Anyway,
don't ever forget
he did it.
That movies are documentaries.
That symbol isn't anywhere on the device. Well, what device?
Men in Black, Stargate, Contact.
Show it.
Well, a lot to unpack there. The first thing that jumped out at me, Kazakhstan, right? Stan is the land of, right? Like we have Pakistan, Uzbekistan, all these Stan countries, right? Turkestan, and Kazakhstan. So the land of the Khazars, right? Khazaria. The 200 seats and the fallen angels link, interesting. Of course, all the symbology and the stargates. But, I just want to say that I don't believe the religious, the biblical account. I don't think this is all, okay, basically, I don't believe the creator, right? The creative energy, the creator, I don't even want to use the word God, right? But the creator is not in the Bible. The gods they talk about in the Bible are the controllers. They are the negative ones. They are not the positively charged energy. They are the negative, right? The Lord, El, Baal, Yahweh. We've just seen it all, right? Where all these entities come from. And this is what all these people who wish to control us, this is who they are worshipping. All right. So that's my issue with the Bible. You just have to read the Bible, right? It tells you I'm a jealous God. You can read about how God went through and destroyed, right, razed to the ground all these cities full of innocent people, and they killed everything, right? Women, children, and animals. This is the God of the Old Testament, right? So that's why I don't see a religious connotation in it. I just see it as an invasion, right, of an entity, a consciousness. It may be more than one that have come in here and they've done the takeover through basically possessing people, right? All these stars and celebrities and everything like that we see. But the 200, it's interesting, right? The scene, like the intro scene for Paramount Pictures, All right, paramount, the highest mount, the highest place, shows these fallen stars coming down, right, skimming across the water and then making a circle around the paramount. So they tell us, they show us, and like she said, symbolism will be their downfall. So, I kind of go along with, I understand the story and I do agree with a lot of it, but I don't put any religious, affiliations in there. It's got nothing to do with religion to me, because like I said, it's got nothing to do with the creator. And I just want to quickly address the millennial kingdom, right? The millennial reign. A lot of people have mentioned it. Coriander, how you going? I saw your comment on it. What are my thoughts on the millennial reign? Well, again, I don't see the Bible as anything to do with the Creator. Okay, apart from the fact that the main Bible that is used and quoted and referenced is the KJV, King James Bible, which was printed early 1600s. I think it was around 1612-ish. Don't quote me on that, but early 1600s. Okay, so going on their timeline, that's 1600 years after Jesus left this realm. Why wouldn't they be using the earliest version? I mean, how much, control and editing can go on in that time? It blows my mind that people reference that as the word of God. And again, the word of which God? Which God? This is my issue with this whole religion thing is, like I said, just read the Old Testament. You'll see what kind of a God it is, and it is not a loving God. Literally tells you, I am a jealous God. A jealous God, someone who wants worship, someone who will punish you for not worshiping him, right? Send you to hell, tells you you're born with sin. Not a loving God. But yeah, that's sorry, rant on, right? Rant time. So the millennial reign, yes, I think that that's kind of just, it's just talking about there were higher vibration people, right? Positively charged people and a positively charged realm. And I think that's what this realm is. I think it goes from positive to negative, negative to positive. That's why we have cyclical resets. Everything is energy. Everything is a wave, right? Positive, negative, positive, negative. That's how I see it. So the millennial reign, what people are calling the millennial reign, to me, was just one of those positively charged cycles, right? And clearly, we've been in a negatively charged cycle where the negative people are in charge because it's a negative charge, right? And of course, we vote them at elections and give them power over us. We vote them into power. So it's a big scam, right? But we're all starting to see through it. But yeah, basically, so the millennial reign, I just see as a cycle, right? And the little Satan of Satan is just the negative cycle. But it also blows my mind that Christians promote this. They promote the fact that a God that they tell us is loving had this millennial reign and then just decided to loose the devil on the world for 200 to 250 years to create chaos, to create what we see around us, right? War, poverty, restriction, all this kind of stuff, and everything else, right? All the SA and the children stuff, all this, just and and understand that the Bible, Christians believe you only have one life. There's no reincarnation, right? So the life that you get, that's it. So this loving God, some people got that life in the millennial reign, as they call it, right? When everything was great and that, Jesus may have been here. That's the story, right? When Jesus was on earth. And other people, they got to live under Satan. So you tell me, is that a loving God? That just blows my mind that Christians promote that and kind of say, look, it's here in the Bible. I mean, it just blows my mind. So this is not a bash on religion or anyone who follows religion. If it makes you a better person and you're following certain things, and there are certain, lessons, especially in the New Testament, that, teach you how to live a good life. But just know what you're worshipping, know what you're giving your energy to, because it's not good, in my opinion. But like I said, I've got nothing against, people who follow certain religions, as long as they don't try and force it on me.
In modern Jewish history, and it begins with 3 words. Dear Lord Rothschild.
Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was after all in Great Britain. So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist. With favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country.
It's the Balfour Declaration. What do you feel when you see it here?
I genuinely feel it's one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of the Jewish people.
They just throw it in our faces, man. It's just there. But most people don't care to have a look and to actually learn what's going on. That's crazy. But they tell you. I mean, holy dolly. Lord Rothschild. Lord. Right? In England, they have the House of Lords. Right? Yet in the Bible, it says, do not take the Lord's name in vain. Right? The Lord, right? Which we heard is Baal. Lord is Baal. Like it's all there to see. And of course, the Rothschilds, the children of Roth. Right? It's also been decoded as the children of Ra, the Ra children. Right? As in Ra, the sun god. Right? Have you ever heard of sun worship? You know, that's related to these people. You know, the children of Ra, the children of Roth.
Your favorite celebrity has been alive for a very long time.
Honestly, I don't know. All I'm saying is it's crazy. Look at these two. Tell me they don't look alike. Okay, now I seen someone saying this is the same person. No, it's not. There's dude's name right there. Crazy, right? Funny how you say vampires. Maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I just thought it was funny. Now tell me that's not the same person. Well, it's not, but that's crazy. Check that out. Here's the name of this guy, because people were wondering. And then obviously that's Mark Zuckerberg. I think he was the king of France. Both have power. There's another one. There's the name of that girl. Now you guys love this one. There's his name. There's Big Alec. Don't they look just alike? Just fluffier? Guess that's Pope Gregory. Look into it. Check that one out. Now I don't know if these people are vampires, clones, what they are, but these resemblances are crazy.
By the way, this video is scripted and for entertainment purposes only. Stay weird.
Well, the whole clone, doppelganger, vampire kind of narrative. I mean, we've seen so much of this coming out recently. You know, apart from those photos, right, where it looks like there's doppelgangers in the past, we now have clones, like literally, you know, that there's actors now where 2 or 3 of them look very similar. And then we've got this, you know, we had the phenomenon with the hands, the weird hands. We've, of course, had the eyes and the glitching. And now there's all these people like the Kardashian mother and who was the other one? Martha Stewart. And there's other ones too who, well, those two look like they lost 30, 40 years, right? And then other ones where it looks like, you know, people like Miley Cyrus have completely changed. Like, what is going on here? Like I said, they're not us.
The Rothschilds are not royals, but they did serve the royal family as financial advisors. Do you recognize them? You've seen them before. Now do you remember them? This is Helene and Guy the Rothschild at their famous Surrealist ball in 1972. The hunt of the stag, pheasants in his headpiece, all about the traditional hunting party. Yeah. They're famous for hosting the most extravagant and bizarre surrealist parties and balls. They've been hosting these elaborate events for hundreds of years. Check this out though. The British royal family had elevated them to the title of Baron, Baronet. The British branch of the family was elevated by Queen Victoria herself, who granted the hereditary title of Baronet. It was 1847. Then later on, they were granted the title of Baron Rothschild, and this happened in 1885. Even King Charles and Queen Camilla attended the celebration of life for Jacob Rothschild, the fourth Baron Rothschild. I even showed you in a video yesterday where the Met Gala, until she didn't arrive, until Marie Helene de Rothschild did not have her surrealist party in 1972, the Met Gala was a demonstration of art, couture. It didn't have all this weird stuff. It didn't have all the weird costumes that we're seeing today that remind us of Hunger Games. These two family ties between the Rothschilds and the Windsors goes back a long time. 1816, the Emperor Francis I of Austria elevated 4 of the Meyer-Amschel Rothschild sons to the Austrian nobility. And in 1818, he elevated the remaining son, Nathan, in 1822. All 5 sons were granted the Austrian hereditary title of Freiherr, Baron. These people are all connected to royal families. And here you have Evelyn de Rothschild that served as Queen Elizabeth II's financial advisor. And here we have Rothschild and Rockefeller together. They are so connected. So how did they gain their favor? If they're not royals, how did they become barons? The answer to this goes all the way back to ancient Egypt.
To be continued.
Yeah, how did they get involved? Well, because it was all stolen. It's all a scam. They're the Khazars, right? They're the people who steal identities. It's the same script over and over again. And did you see that picture of Evelyn de Rothschild poking Prince Charles? That shows you who's above in the pyramid of power, their pyramid of power, which it doesn't mean that pyramids are bad. The pyramid of power is just their working plan, right? Their blueprint of how the few can control the many. That's all it is. But yeah, weird balls, hey, with all their stag heads on, the hat things, whatever they are. Have you ever seen, horns on any other creatures that are sort of related to this topic? It's just everywhere when you start looking, isn't it? But, please do leave me a comment. Let me know. What are your thoughts on this? Who do you think these entities are? Why are they here? Who really is their God? What's going on? Leave me your thoughts because I'd love to check them out.
That he's at the house one night and we were talking and he started laughing. He said, Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about? And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, And he started to laugh. He said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded women's lib, And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He says, there were 2 primary reasons. And one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before women's lib. And the second reason was now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think, which it breaks up the family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the 2 primary reasons for women's lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. When I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble venture.
Well, there you go. And we know this, right? Basically, everything that they do is to control us. and it's always given to us as a great benefit, and it will make our life so much better, like the internet and AI, right? But it always ends up coming back and biting us in the ass every single time, even women's lib. And we're seeing the results of that now, by the way, how it's really has destroyed a lot of women's lives, right? They've ended up 40, 50, no children, no relationships, and that they're not having a very good time. But this is it. It's always a scam every single time because they are liars and they are not us and they are negative entities. And so that's it. And the Rothschilds, right? That interview was back in the 80s. That's an old one. That was Aaron Russo, he was a Hollywood director back in the 80s, and he actually passed not long after that interview, after he started putting this information out, which is what they always do, right? But it just shows that it's not the governments that are doing this. It's not the billionaires. It's a couple of levels above them where all these plays, right? Where the playbook's coming from. So, if you understand that, you'll understand that politics, presidents, all this stuff, it's just a big facade. They don't mean anything and they don't have any real power.
That all the presidents, with the exception of one, share the same grandfather.
Well, first we start off with George Washington at the top, and then it goes to John Adams, Thomas Jefferson.
11-year-old Bridget Davignon says she's made a first-of-its-kind discovery that President Obama and all the presidents before him, with the exception of one, are related and descendants of a former king of England.
No, they are all cousins,
I
and
see.
they're grandsons of John Lackland.
Davignon says she spent countless hours on the internet over the summer researching the lineage of our presidents, a project that started with her trying to trace her own family tree.
But I'm the first historian to do all the presidents.
Yes, I remember when that first came out. That was, gosh, at least a decade, 15 years ago, where, yeah, like I said, an 11-year-old schoolgirl just doing an assignment brought out all this information that they're all connected, all the US presidents. And look, more work has been done since. All the royals are connected. All the leaders all around the world are connected. All the, Hollywood and the music industry connected. All big business connected. It's all one big club, right? And we ain't in it, right? As George used to say. But this is it. It's one big pyramid of power, right? With us at the bottom. And, a lot of people think that's bad. Oh my God, they're controlling us. But look, you wouldn't want to be any more levels up. We are the freest that there is here. Once you start moving up that ladder and you start, selling the bottom of your foot and all that kind of stuff, right? The sole of your foot. Once you do that, you're completely controlled, right? To the point where you step out of line and they'll unalive you.
An easy way to know if you are controlled. Is there somebody or something that you're not allowed to criticize?
That's right.
Simple as that. If you lived in Nazi Germany, you couldn't criticize the Nazi Party. If you lived in the Soviet Union, you couldn't criticize the Communist Party of Russia. If you live in China right now, you can't criticize the Chinese Communist Party. If you live in North Korea, you can't criticize Kim Jong-un. If you live in Cuba, you can't criticize the Cuban Communist Party. If you live in America, who can't you criticize?
Ooh.
Who can't you criticize in America?
The Jewish lobby.
Yes.
On both sides.
Right.
That's right. That tells you who controls the country.
Yep, totally agree. We've all seen the censorship that's gone on, especially in the last 5 years, but really, everywhere, right? This is why they control the media. They own it all, right? Media. Medea was the goddess of illusion, right? Back in Greek times, but that's a whole nother story. Greek, did it exist back then? Probably not. A whole nother story. But yeah, that's true, right? We can't mention them. We can't talk about it. It's coming out now, right? With all the stuff that's been going on in Palestine. A few things I don't agree with what he said, though. The whole World War II, what went on there with the Fuhrer. That story is not what you've been told. And Russia, I mean, yes, communists definitely bad, but I mean, the Bolsheviks, right? They're the ones that started it all and brought it all in. They're the ones that really were still controlling the whole communism thing, just under a different name. And it always does, it spins me out, right? That people will say everything, oh my gosh, they're controlling everything, they control this, they control that, but then that they think that history is true. Does my head in. Of course, I don't believe that history is true. That's why I call it his story. It's just, that's all it is, just a story. It's not our story. Our story or my story is the mystery. And there you go, guys. That's it for today. So, who are they? I mean, just in that small amount of time with those few videos, it's becomes pretty apparent what's going on here, right? These entities that wish to control us are not us. They are controlled, right, by whatever they are worshipping, this other entity. And they're basically its foot soldiers, right, carrying out its plan. And then this gets, it gets a lot deeper. We can get into AI, quantum computing, CERN. What's all this about? What are they trying to summon or give access to this world? It's like they're trying to bring something in, right, with all the portals, all this kind of stuff. It's ever, and then the whole grid, the L grid, right? The electric grid, and the World Wide Web that we're all caught in. So, if you want me to continue this story, I mean, we could make a lot of videos on this, but because there's a lot to it. But it's also important because we're kind of finding ourselves at the end game. And what that end game is, in my perspective, is we're going from the negative charge, where that they have been in charge because they're negative, into the positive charge. That's why we're seeing everything negative, all their system collapse, right? Because we're going into a positive timeline, right? Where people who are positive will be in charge, right? Because they will link in, they will be on the same vibration and frequency as the new positive charge. That's where we're going. But as we're doing that and the old system is falling, they are doing everything they can to promote fear, right? That's why there's so much going on at the moment, and it's all being pumped out on television's news, yes, but also social media, right? It's everywhere. And we know this, right? There's all these bot accounts, there's AI stuff. It's just crazy. And why are they doing that? The inkling I have, what I think it is that they think that if they can get people and keep their frequency and vibration low, that they may be able to keep control of them in another world. If the world does split somehow, then they'll get to control that lower vibrational world. So they'll still have their little slaves, right? Which is all they want, bit of worship, bit of control. And then, of course, everyone who's in the positive charge will go into a positive reality. That's what I think's happening. But do I think that they're going to achieve that? Of course not. They're insane, right? They're psychos. They are not normal. They are not us. So they've already lost and we've already won. All right, that's the way I see it. But please let me know what you think. I would love to know. Leave me a comment. Also, if you like this kind of content, give me a like, helps the algorithm. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Share this around. Let's get this message out. Is there anyone you know who needs to hear this? Because, this is becoming more provable by the day, right? And it's like they say, right? What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? Well, at the moment, it's about a month, right? Things are showing themselves very quickly because it's the unveiling, right? The apocalypse. It means the unveiling. Everything is being showed to us. It's always been like this. We just haven't seen it because we've been programmed. But anyway, please leave me your thoughts. I had a few sort of rants and rambles today, but also let me know. Do you want me to make more videos like this based on the story of the invaders, I guess, is what we call them, right? Those who wish to rule, the El-ites. Let me know. And thanks for spending some time with me. Hope you enjoyed that one. Have a fabulous day. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
The report is that the president is dead. The word we have is that he is dead, that he was shot by an assassin at the intersection of Elm and Houston Streets just as he was going into the underpass. The word we have is from a doctor on the staff of Parkland Hospital who says that it is true. He was in tears when he told me just a moment ago.